Throughout the years, we've seen smartphones get larger, faster, and even more secure. But let's be honest here, the pace of innovation has slowed down quite a bit. Nowadays, manufacturers are throwing a bunch of cameras on the back of their phones and are asking for at least $1,000 for what they call a flagship device. That's the reason I really appreciate what Google did this year with their Pixel 5. It's what a smartphone should be in 2020. They're no longer counting on gimmicky features or even a fancy design to stand out in the market like everybody else. Google just wants to make great hardware with an incredible software experience to complement it. And the brand new Pixel 5 is just that. I've come to appreciate the design language of the Google Pixel 5 after using it for a while. When I first saw this device in pictures, I was a little skeptical on how this green colorway would look like in person, but I have to say, it does look much better in person, and after using it for a while, it's actually a pretty cool looking colorway. With that said, if you're coming from its previous predecessor, you're going to notice that this cell phone, as far as the design, is almost like an upgrade slash downgrade type of situation. Let me explain what I mean by that. Yes, we have this beautiful 6-inch OLED panel that's edge to edge and it's symmetric all around. And don't get me wrong, it looks absolutely beautiful. But last year, Google gave us a 6.3-inch screen, slightly bigger, and it also had a higher resolution at 1440p compared to 1080p. And on top of that, you had an earpiece. Yes, you did have this ugly looking bezel up top, but you had an actual earpiece. With this new Pixel 5, the earpiece is under the display. And to be honest with you guys, it doesn't sound nearly as good as last year's model. Last year, Google gave us this frosted glass back that felt very premium, but this year we do have this fully metal back, but does not feel premium. It feels cheap, in fact, because of the coating that Google put over the metal, and it just feels like plastic, to be honest with you guys. And I feel like most people are not gonna be able to distinguish this between a metal phone and a plastic phone just because it feels very close. So it makes no sense. I guess we got upgraded materials in a way because I would prefer to have a metal finished back than a glass back, of course, because of the durability side of things. But is it worth it if it feels cheap, especially if this is Google's flagship device? But I don't know. If you look at the back of this phone, we now have a fingerprint scanner, which was removed on last year's model. To me, this feels like regression in a way, but then I guess it's an upgrade. We're in 2020 and Face Unlock doesn't work anymore when you're wearing a mask. I'm not sure if Google was probably thinking in the future, or they decided to cut down on cost because Face Unlock was an expensive feature. I mean, I can't really tell anymore. But to me, it's weird the fact that they hyped up Face Unlock on last year's device, then all of a sudden, they don't even want to talk about it. The Pixel 5 only comes in 2 color options. This Sorter Sage colorway I have here and just black. And you literally get this device in just one option. That's it. Last year, Google introduced the 4 and 4 XL. Now you just have the 5, which I could consider a downgrade slash upgrade type of situation. Some people preferred the 4 over the 4 XL. They preferred a smaller device. Don't get me wrong, I love how compact this device feels. I love this new, whatever you want to call it, finish on the back. It feels grippy, it's easy to hold on the hand, but to a certain extent, it does feel like a downgrade, at least not to me, but I'm sure it's gonna feel like a downgrade to some people, especially if you're coming from a Pixel 4, if you'd prefer a smaller device. So this phone has 8 gigs of RAM compared to last year's model, which has 6 gigs of RAM. But now we have the Snapdragon 765G processor compared to last year's model, which was a Snapdragon 855 processor, which is a much faster chipset. Well, I wouldn't say much faster, but it is noticeably faster. Don't get me wrong, you're not gonna notice this on a performance level, which I'll talk about a little bit later in this video, but on paper, the Snapdragon 855 is better on last year's model, which is pretty crazy to imagine, but I guess that's what Google had to do to cut down some costs. When it comes to the build and durability side of things, as I mentioned earlier, you do have this metal finish on the back with this coating on top of it. I honestly prefer this over the glass finish we had last year because it's a lot more durable, honestly. If you were to drop this on the back on most hard surfaces, you're not gonna really crack anything besides that camera glass. With that said, you do still have that beautiful 6-inch edge-to-edge symmetric panel that can easily get cracked if you're to drop it on most hard surfaces. That's why I'm using this Incipio grip case for my phone right now. Recently, I found myself being a lot more clumsy when it comes to phones. I literally cracked my Pixel 4a review unit and my personal daily driver, the iPhone XR, within a few months span. And I didn't want to make the same mistake again, to be honest with you guys. So I'm pretty picky when it comes to cases. I prefer something that's not bulky, it has to be minimal, it has to complement my device, and it definitely has to add some grip because for some reason I keep dropping phones. And that's exactly what the Incipio grip case for the Pixel 5 has been for me. It has 12-foot drop protection because of Incipio's new impact struts technology, extended height raised edge bevel to protect it from the screen cracks, and my favorite feature of all, it has antimicrobial protection, which eliminates and prevents 99.9% of surface bacteria and germs. This is huge, especially in the days we're living in right now. So if you're looking for some pretty good cases for your device, check out the Incipio Grip. It'll be linked down in the description. Finally, let's talk about that display. We now have a 6-inch OLED panel that's edge to edge and symmetric all around. It looks super clean and a lot more modern than last year's display with that ugly notch up top. It's now 1080p compared to last year's model, which was 1440p. With that being said, you still get a pixel density of 432. So to be honest with you, unless you put it side by side with the Pixel 4 XL, you're not really gonna notice a difference. Since this is an OLED panel, you can expect deep blacks and very vibrant colors. However, if you don't like vibrant colors, you can adjust that in settings. You can switch it to natural mode, which will give you more natural colors. I prefer to keep it in boosted mode, which looks very vibrant and it fully utilizes that OLED panel in my opinion. Anyway, this display gets plenty bright and I didn't have any issues using this outside in this hot Georgia sunny weather. Google's right, numbers are not everything because navigating through Android 11 on here was extremely fluid, partly thanks to that 90 Hertz panel. Scrolling down on Facebook, Instagram looked very beautiful. Multitasking was great thanks to that 8 gigs of RAM. And even playing games on here, I didn't have any issues in that department as well. I played a lot of Asphalt 9 and Call of Duty Mobile, and it worked pretty well on here. The overall performance when it came to software, gaming, and even multitasking was wonderful on this device. Speaking of software, this is where the Pixel 5 excels over most devices. I have a few features I want to talk about. The first two features I honestly feel should be a standard with any device in the market right now in 2020, or at least most devices, because smartphones have gotten smarter when it came to the overall software experience. Cameras have gotten amazing, the displays are great and stuff like that, but for some reason, phone calls haven't gotten smarter. So the first feature is called Screen Call. You may or may not have heard of this already, but if you haven't, essentially if somebody calls your phone, you can press Screen Call and you can have the Google Assistant talk to that person. And in return, you can literally see the conversation that the Google Assistant is having with that person with a live transcript. It's super cool. So you can see what Google is saying to them, and then you can see what the person is saying back. All happen live as you're watching it on your screen. It's the coolest thing ever. And there's some built-in replies. So if the person said this, you can probably press like, I can't hear you. And the Google Assistant is gonna say, I can't hear you on the phone call. This has been an extremely useful features for those phone calls I did not want to answer. Another useful phone call feature is that if you're on the line with customer service and they put you on hold and you don't want to listen to that aggravating instrumental or music, you can literally have the Google Assistant wait on hold for you and alert you whenever a representative is back on the line. This has been useful for me these past few days since I've been on the phone with UPS since they lost my package. I like the fact that now you can access the Google Assistant by swiping on the bottom left or bottom right of the screen. It's pretty cool. And then you also have battery share now, so you can literally share charge with somebody else using the wireless charging feature. This has been pretty useful for charging my Pixel Buds, but to be honest with you guys, I don't like sharing charge. If my phone is at 90%, I'm not trying to get your phone back to 20%. You should have charged it last night. So the Pixel 5 now has 5G. Should you upgrade to the Pixel 5 because of 5G? No, please do not upgrade because of 5G, especially if you're coming from the previous predecessor. 5G right now is just a marketing tactic for these tech companies for you to upgrade to their phone because there's literally like no 5G towers like anywhere. Don't get me wrong, there's some here and there, but it's very unlikely that you're gonna be able to fully utilize 5G, maybe in the next 5 years or something like that. 2-3 years, I don't know how fast it's moving, but trust me, do not upgrade to this phone because of 5G. Just because it says 5G on the top right corner of this device does not mean you're getting 5G speeds just yet. The two core reasons consumers are buying the Pixel 5 is simply because of the software and camera experience. Now, the camera paired up with Google's amazing software image processing delivers some incredible looking pictures. The Pixel 5 has a 12 megapixel sensor. In fact, it's using the same camera we've seen since the Pixel 3. Now you have this new 16 megapixel ultra wide sensor, and you have an 8 megapixel selfie camera. The pictures coming out of these cameras look absolutely beautiful as I expected. Colors look very natural and true to life. The ultra wide sensor was very impressive. It's probably the best ultra wide sensor I've seen on any smartphone. In fact, it stacks up with that main camera when it comes to colors and the overall natural look, but I did realize it's not as sharp as that main camera, even though it's a 16 megapixel sensor. The HDR Plus mode does a really great job at not overexposing the highlights and underexposing shadows, even when the lighting is extremely harsh. The night sight mode works just as well as expected, even with that ultra wide sensor. In fact, it probably produces the best ultra wide night pictures I've seen on any smartphone. Google's image processing is just that fire. The video captured at 4K 60 FPS looks fantastic on the Pixel 5. It's beautifully held together with 4 stabilization options: standard, lock, active, and cinematic pan. I'm not gonna get in depth on the Pixel 5 camera because I already did a full review specifically on the camera, which you should go check out. It'll be linked down in the description, or a card will pop up on one of these corners. This device has a 4080 milliamp battery, and I have to say this is probably the best battery life I've had on any phone in a very long time. I'm easily pulling off anywhere between 6 to 8 hours of on-screen of heavy usage. We're talking about full brightness, 90 hertz turned on all the way, like on social media consistently, watching videos on YouTube and sometimes Hulu and Netflix. Literally trying to kill this device, but I couldn't. And this device does have 18 watt fast charging, which is great to see here. And you also have 12 watt wireless charging. On paper, the Pixel 5 doesn't look like much of an upgrade compared to its previous predecessor. And that's okay, because experiences will always beat numbers. If you appreciate functionality and reliability over fancy features and the best specs, then maybe you should consider the Google Pixel 5. This has been Victor Kamanga with another Everything Technology video. Thank you for watching my review on this phone. I look forward to seeing all of you in the next one. Bye.